part 3 of the tutorial on the web case study. We're going to be adding some more CSS code and adjusting some of our things. We want to center our menu here and adjust this as a footer command. So I'm going to go ahead and go back into my CSS file here and add another option. Okay, for example, we want to have a nav option, and let's end that, and we want to have a footer. Whoops. And end that as well. Okay, now these things that start with the period are called classes, and what that means is it's basically similar to this up here, but we can actually name a certain piece so that my footer will have whatever styles are in here and my nav bar will have these styles. Okay, and to start with, let's just put a text align center in my nav, and in my footer I'm going to put some background color. Let's go with CCAA66. Alright, and semicolon. Got to remember the semicolons. And then we're going to do color. Whoops, got to use the number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that'll be black. And then I'm going to put a font size as, let's say, 0.60 EM, and maybe add a font style italic and a text align center. Alright, so let me go ahead and save that and see how these look. Alright, so obviously things I didn't change here. I didn't go back in here and tell these things on my footer, for example, that this was actually a footer. So now again, if I look on here, my footer looks like this. So I'm going to jump down to my index here and I'm going to make this paragraph equal class nav. Alright, so I'll save that, and if I go back and refresh, okay, so I did something that I do sometimes, and that is I put my equal first. So if I do class equals and go back and refresh, it will work. Alright. Okay, so now that we have our nav and our footer styles put in here, what we need to do is go back in, because if we refresh, nothing changes. So we're going to need to go back in here to our index, and down here where our footer is, we want to put in a class equals footer. And that way anything inside this paragraph is going to be considered a footer. And then up here with our nav, we want to put in a class equals nav. And I will do a save, and go back here and do a refresh. And so now we have our footer and our nav. The problem is we don't have those on all of our pages. So what we need to do is go back in here, and what I'm going to just do is copy my nav and paste over the nav in each of my other pages. So 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to also do the same thing for my footer. Copy, and then I'm going to go in and paste, paste, and paste. So I'll just go save, 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 whoops, save. So now again, if I go back here to refresh, my home looks like this, menu looks like this, events looks like this, and jobs looks like this. Alright, so all of my styles seem to be working okay. Okay, so another thing I want to do is I want to add in some spacing here so that it's not just taking the whole page. So I'm going to put everything on the page in something called a wrapper. Alright, and I'm going to do that inside my CSS with something here called wrapper. And I'm going to begin and in my code. Alright, so in my wrapper, I want to say my width is, let's say, 80%. Alright, margin left, auto, margin right, auto. Alright, so I'm going to save this now. And then inside my page, I want everything in my page to be in that wrapper. So right after this, I'm going to begin this thing called a div, id equals wrapper. Alright, and then I'm going to go to the very bottom before HTML, before body is over, and I'm going to end my div. Alright, so I'm going to save this, and this is so far just in index, so I'm going to go and check it here. So you can see that it actually puts in the space, and the nice thing about this is it keeps its proportions as it changes width. Alright, so now if I want that on each page, again, you're going to have to copy the div and paste it into the beginning of each body. Now this is kind of a pain, but once we get everything set up, you won't have to do this on every page. Alright, I'm going to also copy the end div onto every page. Alright, so the whole point of having this external style sheet is that once we get this all set up, we change the one file and everything changes with it. Alright, and so I'm going to save, 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 and save, and then I'm going to go here and refresh. So we've got home, menu, events, and jobs. Alright, so that gives us another step toward, a more well-designed website.